against Hosni Mubarak, many Egyptians said voters had stayed at home due to political apathy, opposition to another military man becoming president, discontent at suppression of freedoms against liberal youths, and calls for a boycott by Islamists.
The VOA's Elizabeth Arrett joins us now via Skype from Cairo, the Egyptian capital. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us on The World Today. Give us a sense of how important this election is to stabilizing Egypt. Army Chief Fattah al-Sisi winning the elections. How important is that?
Well, I think everybody would like some sense of stability. But whether or not the army chief will be able to bring that is the big question. The country's very divided, and when you have this kind of situation, we're already on its first day, and some very serious questions are being raised about voter turnout. They are being reported as 46%, as we just heard in the report, but it's that number is being questioned. There was reports by Egyptian independent voters that on those first 2 days of voting, it was as low as 10%, and that there really wasn't a great jump on Wednesday. So many people are questioning, how did they even get to 46%? And that kind of possible manipulation is making many people thinking all the more so they're going back to what they had before for decades of a non-transparent and perhaps heavy-handed government. So
does the Electoral Commission suspect any foul play in this result? Because I do agree with you, with low turnouts on Monday and then low turnouts on Tuesday, even though they declared a public holiday, and people went back to the polls again on Wednesday. How is it Chief al-Sisi got 93% of the votes and with 46% of voters turnouts expected?
Well, I think the landslide itself, certainly as it was mentioned with the boycott, and voter apathy and that certain sense of inevitability, a lot of people stayed away. So the people who did go and he got 93%, that seems normal. But officials, as you were asking about the election officials, they're saying everything has gone fine. But again, it's raising suspicions for people who've had many, many years of non-transparent voting practices, beginning to question, and so far it doesn't seem to add up. And it's hard to know because there weren't that many monitors. Hamdin Sabahi, the opposition candidate, actually withdrew his monitors after the second day because some of them had been arrested simply for gathering, and the arrest warrant was because of these very strict protest law that doesn't allow a certain amount of people beyond, I think it's like 5 or 6, to get together. So it's that kind of oppression, that kind of questions about official statements is not a great beginning.
And what does the international community say about the elections in Egypt? Were there any international observers at any of the polling stations?
There were observers from Africa, the Comisa, and there were some European observers. But again, it was somewhat more limited. Some were concerned about safety issues, stayed mainly in Cairo, where there was a fairly, it has a fair amount of support for Sisi, and we had more people coming to the polls probably here than say in southern Egypt, which are more strongholds of the Brotherhood who had boycotted it, and just other places across the nation. I think people are talking now that Sisi really made a miscalculation in not campaigning and mobilizing the vote, since it was, really a one-man race. He didn't really do much to engage the youth or try to do something to get people out and vote for him. And as a consequence, he maybe doesn't have that mandate that he had really hoped for.
Well, thanks a lot, Elizabeth. I'm sure that there will be other developments on this story, especially as al-Sisi eventually assumes office as president of Egypt, hoping those developments does take place in the country. Thanks a lot. Elizabeth Arrett is the VOA's correspondent in Cairo. She joined us via Skype. Now, international medical aid teams are on their way to eastern Sierra Leone to try to deal with an outbreak of the deadly and highly contagious Ebola virus. The experts are from the World Health Organization and the Doctors Without Borders charity. As comes after 6 suspected Ebola patients were taken out of hospitals from their families, defying doctors. One of the patients later died amid fears that the virus could spread. Nearly 200 people have died so far of Ebola here in West Africa since the outbreak was first reported in Guinea in March. There's no cure or vaccine for the disease, which is one of the world's deadliest viruses. In the meantime, at least 11 people have been killed in an attack on a church in the Central African Republic. Eyewitnesses say members of the S.Leone militia group threw grenades before shooting indiscriminately at the church of Fatima in the capital, Bangui. The attack on the church followed hours of fighting in the PK5 neighborhood of Bangui. Witnesses say those inside the Catholic Church were seeking shelter from the clashes. It's the worst attack on Christians in the country since the S.Leone rebels were ousted from power in January this year. S.Leone Prime Minister Michel Djotodia was forced to resign as president after failing to stop an anti-Christian attacks. Since then, there have been widespread reprisals against Muslims who were almost completely driven out of the state capital in what the UN said amounted to ethnic cleansing. When we come back after the break, more on the situation in Ukraine with an attack at many more buildings. Please join us again.
Every day you invite us to your home. Now we invite you to our homepage. Join Channels TV on social media. Hang out with us on Google Plus/Channels Television. Follow us on Twitter.com/Channels TV_NG. Friend us on Facebook.com/Channels Forum. And don't forget to like our page. That's not all. Subscribe to our YouTube channels. YouTube.com/Channels Web to get constant video updates and news and events in Nigeria and around the world. ChannelsTV.com. The news at your fingertips.
Welcome back to the world today. Of course, the situation in Ukraine continues to worsen with more and more attacks in the eastern part of the country. But one of the worst so far is an attack by pro-Russian rebels on a military helicopter that was shot down near the flashpoint city of Sloviansk. 14 people were killed in that attack. The aircraft was reportedly hit after offloading soldiers at a military airbase. Sloviansk has seen fierce fighting between separatists and government forces in recent weeks. President-elect Petro Poroshenko has vowed to tackle the uprising in the east, saying he would deal firmly with what he called bandits and murderers. There have been an upsurge in conflict since Mr. Poroshenko's election on Sunday. Rebels say that they lost up to 100 fighters when they tried to seize Donetsk airport on Monday. And since then, further clashes have been reported in several areas, including Sloviansk, where pro-Russian militiamen are holding 4 international monitors.
The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry and Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe says the missing OSCE members are alive and well, and there is hope they will be released soon.
We have not yet been able to re-establish contact with them. It's now been since Monday. Of course, as the days pass, we get more concerned. But we are using all of our contacts, high-level government contacts, diplomatic contacts, non-state actors on the ground, of which there are many, to re-establish contact with them. We believe they're fine, they're well, but of course the one thing we do want is to see them return to base.
Earlier on Thursday, the leader of pro-Russian separatists in the area where the monitors were seized said they are likely to be released soon. Vyacheslav Ponomarov, whose separatist group controls the town of Sloviansk, said the OSCE had been warned not to travel in the area, but had sent a 4-man team out all the same. The team, which comprises a Dane, a Turk, an Estonian and a Swiss, are among a few hundred monitors sent to monitor compliance with an international accord for de-escalating the crisis in troubled eastern Ukraine, where separatists have seized control of strategic points in several towns.
Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin is a very happy man today. He has signed a deal with his counterparts from Kazakhstan and Belarus to create an economic union. Moscow says